Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was so feel.
It's all right if you break that, it's really.
I know.
Yeah.
Lee, did the recording start?
Yeah.
It did, okay, I see it, okay,
You
perfect.
should be good.
Thank you, sir. All right, 6:35, April 14th, budget workshop workshop calling to order, not a meeting, the workshop.
Try that again.
Let the record show it's a workshop. There's no record. All right, yeah, that's right. Yep, so I'm gonna hand it over to Pete for some opening announcements.
Okay, first of all, in anticipation of some lengthy discussions on some more complex issues as we get further into this, I want to throw out some dates that are going to change our calendar. So today, we're on 4/14. It was scheduled to be final review, but it's not final review. It's just a regular review. We're gonna keep our 4/21 meeting next week. And it's not gonna be presentation to the joint boards. It's gonna be another review and discussion. We want to add two dates, 4/22 and 4/28. That will be joint board discussions, so finance board and Burgess's. And during that time period, we want to finish the town issues, which we can probably do tonight. But what we really want to do is wrap our arms around the Board of Education requests and determine a number and a means of accomplishing it. And I think there's going to be some back and forth with the Board of Ed. And when I say that, I really mean Chris Montini, his finance team, myself and our finance team, James and Diane somewhat, but there's going to be some back and forth. So first of all, Allison, I want you and Nancy, I guess, Nancy DeMayo, she's not on up there, right?
No.
But we're gonna need to announce those dates, so we'll do that tomorrow and notice all of those meetings. So first of all, I'm gonna give you an overview of where we are. So on the town side, and we're gonna go through every budget again tonight. I think on the town side, we could probably do our final review tonight. And we're doing very well. We're well under 1%. And
The alarm just went off at the
I
event
think
center.
we can finish that tonight. Now, on the Board of Ed side, their request as of tonight is 6.1 million over what it was last year. So our hurdle is going to be how we can address that number. Now, remember, we are in year 3 of our reval phase in. So we will be creating new revenues from new construction and from reval, even with our 2 mil rate decrease. So we'll probably have 2.5 to 2.75 million in new revenues, which is a good thing. So when we did reval, we estimated, we thought conservatively that the Board of Ed would go up 2.5 million last year, 2.5 million this year, and the town would be about the same. So on the town side, we're ahead of schedule, but they've surpassed it. So that's the gap that we're going to have to figure out how to address, and there are a variety of ways to address it. So we are working on some capital reserve proposed transfers. We are looking at our new revenues. course, we do have fund balance, we have a mill rate. And when you put it all together, we're gonna need some feedback, discussion, you know, where we want to wind up, what are the priorities of every group, the Burgesses, the finance board, education, the town, etc. So that discussion will take place on, let's just say on the 21st, 22nd, and 28th. We will finalize that number, present it to the joint boards to adopt, and then we'll vote. And then after that, we'll stay on schedule. 5/7, we'll publish the proposed budget. 5/12, we'll have a public hearing, and 5/14 will be budget adoption. And those last three dates are critical, and we want them to remain because there are legal requirements attached to the timing of those meetings. And it's important that we finish on time so that we can get the tax bills printed and sent out on schedule. We've learned in the past that sending tax bills out late creates chaos and leads to the problem. So I think, I'm not sure, but I think for the last 7 years or so, we've sent the bills out on time and we didn't have problems. In the earlier years, when they went out later, it created hardships for people because, you know, you wind up getting 2 6-month tax bills, maybe in 3 or 4 months, and that puts a lot of pressure on households. So we're going to avoid that at all costs. So that's the schedule. That's what we have to accomplish. So tonight, what we want to accomplish tonight is to go through our town budget and our capital budget on the town side and have a general discussion about anything further we want to cut or add, you know, to general discussion. And then I think that by the end of tonight on the town side, I think it will pretty much be our final review. Now, of course, we can always change something if we have new information, but you know, I think we're in pretty good shape on the town side. So I'd like to finish that tonight, then come back on the 21st, and then start the formal discussion about how to deal with the shortfall with the Board of Ed. And then we're gonna have another meeting the night after with the Burgesses, have a further discussion. And between the 22nd and the 28th, and during that entire time, I think there'll be some meetings with the education side. And then we're gonna put it all together and come up with a proposed budget. Now, remember, you know, I think a lot of people get misled a little when you're reading the paper and they see how other towns do it. Other towns are presented a budget by the mayor and then they cut it. As you all know here, you haven't been presented a budget, we're creating a budget. So we do it the way, you know, every town says, or every government says, that's how they want to do it. So we're making the budget. So it's a different process from other towns, but it's a good process. And there's more opportunity for input along the way. And we're all here, so tonight we'll have our final input on the town side. So having said that, I'm going to turn it back over to James. We're going to go through our handout, have a general discussion or questions or comments on all our departments on the town side. And we'll do the same thing. We'll take a quick, not a quick look, but we'll take a look at capital on the town side. And I think by the end of tonight, we're gonna pretty much know where we are on the town side. So any questions on that?
For those in the room, the updated paper is right there on the end of that table.
It was emailed out too.
Oh, no, okay.
Reader's Digest version. Yes. Yeah.
Cliff notes.
Yes, yes.
So anyone that's online, that's on the distribution list, it should be in your email for 5:21 PM from Allison. For those in the room, we have the 14-page packet. We're just going to go in order of the pages, so that way we're not jumping around. I know there's some hot topics, but we'll just go through it and keep everyone in order. So first up is the administrative budget. Looks like there's a 3.43% increase. It's just due to payroll. Is there any questions or comments regarding administrative?
I'll just say there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
wages.
the wages. All right, moving on. Town hall. Oh,
We don't have to do it. It's only something else to say, right?
okay. Going on to town hall building. So that's the lower section of this page. It looks like we've got, what we got here? It's this payroll that's going on.
The reduction overall.
Yeah, it's a reduction overall. Two things are being reduced. If there's any other questions?
Well, the only thing to say is that, there are some increases to, townwide. So when we get to town hall building, I think is simple. When we get to townwide,
Swings over to
it's
that.
gonna
one.
swing over. That's where we'll have to have the discussion.
Perfect segue into townwide activity on the next page.
All right. Well, let me make a couple comments and then we'll take questions or comments. So, the best thing is, heating gas is down because the event center, we're not heating the second, third, or fourth floor. And we're, not utilizing the furnace. We're providing some temporary heat to get through the winter. And, we're anticipating at least a $60,000 decrease in our costs at the building. Could be a little better than that, but we like to pick conservative numbers. So heating, gas and oil, are gonna be down because, you know, that's our biggest building and, not having to heat it, big, big savings.
Hold on.
All right, we have, we lost Diane. Now, Allison, is there anything of note that you want to add to townwide?
No,
All right.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions on townwide activities?
All right, moving on. Department of Finance.
Just wages.
Any questions or comments?
No.
Thank you. Moving forward to probate court. Looks like the final line is on the next page, but
Yeah.
most of it is
It's
very small increases.
up $600.
Yeah. Any questions or comments on probate? Okay. Up next is the elections. Looks like it's decreased by 67,328. They did report that it's not a presidential election, so there was a significant reduction there. If there's any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll look at tax department. They have an $8,547 increase. So due to printing and postage.
So some of the printing is designed to send out some additional notices that actually prompt new revenue and sort of remind people that they have a bill so they don't accumulate extra interest. So it's designed to give a little more notice to taxpayers. It's not mandated, but I think it's fair. You know, a lot of people say they never knew they had to pay, but that's not a legal excuse, but,
They might bring in more revenue, yeah.
yes.
Taxes are a pretty well kept secret.
You know, it's one line.
All right, any other questions for tax?
No.
Okay, moving forward to property assessment. So we're up $36,800 on property assessments. Majority is the payroll. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward. Page 4, building department. We've got a just shy of $26,000 increase, majority's payroll as well, along with the state code books that we did report on when we did the presentation. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, moving forward to management of information systems. Somewhat of a hefty increase, $98,334, $80,092 of that is due to the maintenance contracts. A portion of payroll, the rest is rather negligible in terms of increases.
So,
One decrease.
James, you're the expert on maintenance contracts. Does that all make sense to you?
I'm the expert on maintenance contracts.
You're more so, an expert is someone that knows more than average. I'd say.
Oh, okay.
More than anyone else.
Specifically on maintenance contracts.
Figure this me.
Yeah, that's subject matter expert.
Yeah.
I can say, I mean, as far as contracts go, I mean, they're increased no matter what, like. We've seen significant increases in my industry on the professional side. I mean,
So this is normal, that 80,000?
I wouldn't say it's like a normal thing that you would expect annually, but based on the current environment. It's actually not as terrible as I thought. We've had contracts at the credit union side that have gone up almost double that. You know, could be a 2% or 3% increase that they've got built in and legally they can do it, so that's in their contract. You know, the only way to get around that is renegotiating maintenance contracts outside to other vendors. But that's if that vendor can service whatever it is that these are servicing.
They're all about the same.
Yeah.
Cost wise,
Yeah, you're gonna pay a
not
lot.
quality wise, but they're
Right.
all about the same cost wise.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Up next, town clerk, no change. It's an easy one. No questions? Okay. Naugatuck Event Center, so we have a $50,000 decrease. And that's it there.
We also have a revenue increase there, which is good. If anyone goes into that building now, can actually drive through, you will see a chock full of lumber and, fully rented and, doing well.
Of that. Fully rented and decreased expense. Okay, moving forward, Naugatuck Economic Development Corporation, we have a $60,000 decrease. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, that's due to the current retirement. So it's just open position presently, that's.
I would say it's open and at least in my judgment, and I'm talking from the town side, not from the viewpoint of them, that in the next year, we're not really looking for new major industry. We're trying to complete what we already have in the works. And we're keeping the office intact, the phone number. If someone contacts the office and has a project they want to discuss, we'll certainly entertain that. So Lori is there, the office will carry on, but we're not funding the director's position for at least a year under the budget as it's presented. So that's my recommendation. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on it.
I just want to make sure who does that work when there's nobody in that position.
Take a guess.
I know, but I've heard you say that about a lot of positions and I'm getting a little concerned.
Don't worry about me.
I hear you.
I have my mushroom elixir. I'm good to go.
Well, I'll get you a straw, but let's just keep an eye on that,
On what?
on you. You're doing a lot.
Let me just tell you,
Yes,
I've never felt better. Don't worry about me.
okay.
All right.
I will keep saying it out loud.
I'm glad you're worried about me, but I feel good.
Kim, my, second name.
All right, moving on to land use department. We've got a $45,135 increase. And it is essentially totally tied to regular payroll, so there's no other increases there. Any questions?
Is that the one where
Yeah.
they're looking to hire?
Yeah, so she sent me
Yeah, she sent in
something.
a. Yeah.
Diane,
Yes.
okay, so you asked for it, she sent it in.
Yeah,
Do you have it?
She sent a letter.
yeah, I saw it, but I'm still, I understand what she's saying.
Well, it's basically she's saying things are falling through the cracks because there's so much going on and she needs to bring that position back. And I understand that.
Well, I understand that also, I get it. But, all right, in 2 years or 3 years, when this is done,
Then you revisit the position. Like you got
so
rid
you're
of
gonna lay
last time,
somebody off? I mean, when was the last time we laid somebody off?
2013.
What, in land use?
Yeah, the clerk.
That's what I'm saying, 12 years ago, so.
If we don't fund it now, though, we're going to be paying the temp agency.
Right, and the temp agency is expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little bit cheaper. Depending on, well, it's part-time, this job, right? So
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
benefits or anything.
Yeah.
So actually, in this case, the temp agency might actually be more expensive.
With everything going on in town. It's
I'd
probably,
rather-
it's money well
I'd
spent.
rather have continuity
Yeah.
and have someone in that.
That's
spot.
fine, I'm just bringing it up because of,
This line is not keeping the school.
so, okay.
Yeah, I get that part, but there are two separate budgets.
No, I'm just talking about that position. I read the letter, I get what the letter's saying. But my department was cut in half. And I'm still doing the work, okay? I mean, people had, in today's world, you gotta do more. That's all.
So when we were moving from renovated school into that position, we had 1 or 2 positions that we knew were only gonna last a couple of years. And we actually advertised them that way. This is a transition position that we're using until we blah, 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 whatever it is.
And
And that person knew that they had a 2-year job. We didn't have any trouble hiring. And we got good people. Maybe that's the way to do this, and I don't know if this committee can do it. But maybe that could be our recommendation.
Okay, just to let you know, as somebody who chaired the board for 4 years, I worked with them very closely. I was there almost daily. They could have used that position back then. They asked for it, it was denied. The letter that she sent doesn't even include every project. I mean, the towers that we're talking about putting in at Green South, that's not even in there. The event center isn't even in there. There's a lot more beyond that. She just took the immediate things that they need right now.
Yeah.
But the position, I think, is definitely
She's
needed.
already been doing more.
Hmm?
She's already been doing.
Oh, they're
more
doing-
than her
they do
regular
quite a
for
bit.
years now, because the way things have started.
Mhm.
She's already been putting that extra in, the increased volume. Now it's just a matter of the saturation point. And this
then
is
you
one
have a
department
point
you
of-
don't want, things getting screwed up.
You-
Because we'll get nailed in lawsuits and
I
other
mean, that
problems.
and our building department are the 2 of the busiest departments we have in the near future.
But
We,
you have
we
a,
don't have to spend time, I mean, everyone is.
you have a
and that's
level of
fine.
burnout on top
That's
of that,
fine.
and then you're gonna lose viable opportunities that
Yeah.
you should have been keeping an eye on.
Okay, moving on to legal. We have a $50,000 increase overall.
Yeah, so it's labeled, reval commercial outside council, but it's really from last year's reval. We're, getting ready for trial on some of the bigger, appeals. For example, Walmart and some of the big commercial ones. We've elected to go to trial rather than settle, and that's where the extra expense is.
Any other questions or comments for legal? All right, moving on, wage increases, $15,884 for non-union and union combined. Those are just increases. Any comments? Okay. All right, human resources, we are down $14,377. And that is just, in this case, a contractual service that decrease. All right, moving on to police, page 6. They have a overall increase, $332,215. The majority of that is due to payroll and overtime and part-time. You can see down the list what we have for comments on police. Like you're gonna say something when you popped right up.
I woke up.
And I was satisfied with how the chief presented some of the challenges, so. Well, here he has a chocolate right already.
Anything else for police? All right, let's move on to fire. They've got an overall increase of $20,529.
Probably the smallest increase I've seen in the past 20 years.
Now, I would say I was elated when I saw their proposal, so.
It's awfully sad.
Career position, you go from chairman of finance to fire chief, and then the numbers come down.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
That's not bad.
Optional.
I'm sure, yeah.
All right, let's look next at animal control. We have a $46,886 increase.
Again, just a comment on that. That's probably the first time in the past 20 years that I've seen animal control's budget have a larger increase than the fire department.
Yeah. If
Double.
memory serves, the biggest request there, I think, was the added position.
Right,
It seems like it might be missing from the
yeah, but,
calculation on that top.
I know.
but that's what it is.
Any other questions or comments for animal control? All right, moving forward, emergency management, overall a decrease of $59,501. Any questions or
So,
comments? Go ahead, Pete.
No, just, those, duties will be taken over, by our NEMAC team, which includes me, the fire chief, the, deputy fire chief, fire marshal, just, basically the town. However, two things are gonna be included. Heather from the building department is gonna get a stipend to do the relocation. So whenever there's a fire or a building code violation and the building is closed down, under the Uniform Relocation Act, we have an obligation to house people. And there's a lot of moving parts there, who's responsible, whether the town is, the landlord, is there insurance? There's a lot of paperwork, and then monitoring the people, trying to find them housing, which is almost impossible to find apartments to rent in Naugatuck now. And then enforcing our new policy and our statutory maximum payment. So there's a lot to it. So Heather's gonna do that, and we'll probably have someone else in the fire department will take on some additional duties. But even with those two stipends, we have it coming down almost $60,000. So there won't be a full-time position. and there will not be a benefit package for that position.
Any other questions on emergency management? All right, East Side Fire Station has no increase. Any questions? None. Safety Patrol also has no increase or decrease. And same with Fire Police. Any questions on either of those two? Okay. Social Service has a small increase of $2,845. That's just service itself. Any questions? Okay, Youth Services, no increase there. They remain the same. Any questions about Youth Services or comments? Excellent. All right, Water Pollution Control Board. So we have a $215,012 increase.
Which is offset by a revenue increase of approximately the same amount.
Little more. The
What,
revenue is a little higher.
a little higher, so we're actually gonna come out a little bit ahead on that.
Okay. Any other questions regarding water pollution? All right, up next.
The service fees went up almost $200,000, is that what I'm saying? For Veolia?
Mhm.
Why is that?
It's a contract.
That's our
Negotiated.
That's
So-
our contract.
Well, we pay them 200,000 more, they pay us 250,000 more for rent.
Okay.
So we got more from them than. they
No,
got from us.
I get it.
There's two contracts there, so. So we pay them to operate the wastewater treatment plant and the incinerator. They pay us rent to rent our equipment from us. And they pay us more than we pay them. Although there are a few insurance policies and things, so essentially it's a wash.
That's nice, but it's still a big increase.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've had 20-minute discussions over a $3,000 increase.
Well, except it's
It's
a
gonna
contract.
offset, right?
We don't have, in other words, we have a 20-year contract. It
Okay.
goes up CPI. So every year, whatever happens is defined in the contract. So
Okay.
it's not really a decision for us.
Okay, got it. Not that,
For
that I
approximately
understand.
17 more years. Is that when that contract's up? 17
Is that-
years? 18 years?
18, I think.
18, yeah.
Yeah, we'll all still be sitting here at the time.
What?
What's that?
We'll all still be here talking about it.
All right, moving on to Senior Center, we have an $1,827 increase. Nothing,
Well, I'm gonna throw something out.
Okay.
As an aside. You're gonna like this, but,
Okay,
I just want, not tonight, but I wanna hold in advance a possible addition of 25,000, something like that. For a, part-time person to supplement the services that are being offered there. There've been a lot of complaints. And, we feel that some young blood, in addition to what's being provided would be helpful. So it's something that we're going through right now. We have a highly talented Burgess subcommittee who are working on the,
We're gonna see your
situation,
circuit.
on the situation. And,
We need a higher pay for this job.
Their motto, we know it.
He's gonna start winning at Picos. Be all set.
so, in fact, we have a meeting on that
Next week.
next week.
Yeah.
So before, everything is adopted, we can take another look at that.
okay.
In their budget, they were asking for 2 part-time office staff,
Who?
the senior center.
Yeah, but he's talking like people that, I don't know what they
Well,
do, but.
He's talking, I'm just saying, in his budget, he has,
So this is not in his budget. This is the borough board telling him to get on the ball and get stuff going down there, and we're gonna help you do it, so you better do it. That's pretty much what it is.
In reality,
$50
in reality, it's
No, this
not,
is
while it's an increase this year,
17K.
overall, it really isn't an increase because staff has been eliminated over the years and not replaced. And the services that they were providing have been eliminated and not
He
replaced.
does too much. He
so-
cooks, he goes to the grocery
Yeah,
store,
he does,
he's
yeah.
running around doing all these things, and
He's getting
there
so
aren't
nuts.
enough activities.
Yeah.
So just so what's here, so here's 79,779. So his the salary for the senior center director for Harry.
Harvey,
For Harvey, Jesus, is 62,000. He has an office assistant, part-time for 8,800 and another one for 8,800. So he has two vacant positions in his budget. So Mayor, you saying we're gonna add a third person?
no, I'm gonna say we're gonna add a second person, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because if you're right, I'll take that 16 and subtract it from the
Right,
20 and
exactly.
25. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Add another eight, right.
He had a part-time for a certain number of hours and then he thought it would be more flexible to split the hours in half over two people.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, 'cause
that's what
He
he
has
said.
them, just so you know, in the budget book, he has them both listed as vacant, and he has it at 26.4 hours each.
So, yeah, I want you two to talk to him about that,
okay.
okay?
Probably highlight page 2 of this budget.
Page 2 of 3, yeah.
Okay, yep, we can do that.
Very good, Diane.
Hey, I told you, sometimes,
You had sleep last night.
that's right, except I came in from North Haven, but yeah.
All right, moving on to DPW operations and maintenance. This is about 1.5 pages long. Overall increase is $234,161. Yeah, the difference column is not highlighted.
Yeah, it got leaped. But it's
Let me-
basically salaries and waste collection.
Okay,
Yeah.
probably.
Tipping fees,
Tipping,
Tipping
yes.
fees is their biggest thing.
you're right.
Porta potty increase.
Well, there's a porta potty place on 68, we can take some of those.
Yeah. How did the
Yeah, there is a
regular
bunch
payroll-
of them there.
How did the regular payroll not go up?
Because their contracts,
It's in, you have it in the other budget, Allison, or in here?
it's in the, they did go. They have a contract increase,
No,
And-
that's why I'm asking.
Right.
how they would say.
gross wage increases.
But I think we're saying the same thing, only you're saying it like it's not a problem. I'm saying, yes, those things happen. Why isn't the number bigger from one year to the next?
I'll look at it, but when it just, when it doesn't change here,
Uh-huh.
it changes in the gross wage department
Okay,
that we just went by.
okay.
Well, let's double check it.
So,
It's a, I
So-
don't-
Let me double,
No, Allison, what you're saying is it's in the non-union wage.
yeah, but let me just check it because I know it's in that bottom number of the 234. It's in your books.
yeah,
With the
actually,
differences.
The book,
Yeah.
contractual increases.
It's in the total number,
There,
but it's the exact same thing that was in your books.
32,
Just,
there's recycling costs, an increase of 52,000 in tipping fees.
Mm-hmm.
20,000 in road, sand and salt. Right, is that it? Yes. It's B1 in our books.
Okay,
The difference between fiscal year, the two, so the column that's blank is completed here.
Right.
okay. In B1. All right, that's
That-
the,
That sideways answered you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But the bottom number,
I'm looking at, but.
right,
I don't yet.
Yep.
So, Allison, are you saying that
There is, hold on.
Yeah, to something. Percentage.
Oh,
you're saying it's in here?
it's in these numbers, yeah.
Correct.
Right, you're saying this is correct, but this number is probably not correct. Right?
Maybe the original.
Trying to find out. Here.
No, it's okay, so if this number is right, we have no problem.
Except there should be a 54K reduction.
But
this means
seven, yeah,
it's just when I was running scenarios.
so let's double check this, but this 234,000 seems to be correct,
Right.
but the upper numbers are not correct. There is an increase that's not shown in those upper numbers.
Allison, if you can also check with Jim, because I have a note when he presented that he was reducing the park maintenance. He said only needed starting in the spring, so he was reducing that 54,000.
Correct.
So it's where it says regular payroll park maintenance, it's 704,550.
That was because of the new person he was gonna hire. He was gonna hire later into the year.
Yes, correct. So he said it was gonna be about a $54,000 increase. Okay.
All right,
All right, any other questions or
Yeah, I
comments
think
for
24, 25 numbers.
GPW project?
You're good. That's all right.
I said any more questions or comments? This is why we're in our first version of the final. All right, moving forward is engineering department and it starts at the bottom of page 11. That looks like the overall it's actually a decrease of $1,007. And that does match up to what our budget book says. And that included, I believe, a storage system for the maps. What we requested for. Any other questions or comments? What's that? Yeah, Dan.
I have it, 2,255 for the map storage unit. And then it looks like a decrease. What do you have, does anybody have their engineering, because I crossed it out, where it says environmental testing. I crossed it out and put in 23,500.
I had 23.5 also,
What's the original number?
28.
28, so it's probably an offset, those two numbers probably just offset, okay, that's fine.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Up next is engineering department.
That
Sorry,
wasn't-
no, we just did that. My mistake. Debt service.
we like it.
We love it. It's decreasing by $514,124.
Good to pay off loans.
Yep. As a credit union CEO, we don't like to hear that, but I'm in my capacity as chairman of the finance board.
Take the hat off.
That's right. One hat off, one hat on. So yeah, $514,000 decrease. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward on to pensions, $86,089 increase. Any questions or comments? Okay, Hearing none, we'll move forward. Looking at insurance, a $149,296 increase. We did have workman's comp go up and employee medical go down almost. Negated itself completely. Outside of that, just some general increases on the insurances that I think are actually pretty modest considering the environment that we're in. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Community services, we have a $70,000 increase. By two line items, it looks like the Naugatuck ambulance for 20 and real estate planning for 50 is the total of that $70,000.
And Connecticut Partnership is still in at 10.
Yeah, it is,
They
isn't it?
asked for 30.
They asked for
Yeah,
30.
they asked for 30. Which time, right? Didn't we have to vote on that?
Yeah,
You did.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what we're here to
you have
discuss.
to make a decision,
Mhm.
which won't get voted on until later, but question is,
Well, we can do an initial vote, and either leave it,
Yeah, yeah.
leave it or increase it, the finance board can make that decision. And then
She was looking for staff.
Well, it's kind of what she was doing with some of the funding, but because of the, and I think she also laid out the number of in-service calls they received,
Yeah.
which is almost double.
She wanted the case manager and then, yeah, it must be another case.
I don't believe it.
No, and they also, so their grant funding.
Yeah, but
is being reduced
it's revenues.
by other vendors. It's seen in-
Allison, where are the community services page?
Should be in your front folder.
Case manager.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, that is
But
right.
it's part of the,
Yeah.
it's like right in the front of the, that's where I put it. So, I think she submitted a complete narrative.
She did.
She needs to, she's looking to hire a second case, part-time case manager.
All right, so her request for 30,000 was that additional part-time case manager. There's no doubt that that department or that organization, I should say, not department, is certainly handling a majority of cases, probably up and above what they're capable of doing.
She said she's getting like 147% increase just in the first couple of months this year compared to last year for the whole 12 months.
Mhm.
So the case call increase has doubled. Right.
Is anyone familiar with the other funding sources of this organization outside of the, we only get 10 grand, I know they're not
It's a
operating
lot of
that.
grants.
Grant funding, she writes for grants.
Yeah.
And then you have like the funding from Ion Bank, I think is decreased, and a couple of the other areas have, a lot of the grant funding has come down quite a bit over
Yeah.
time.
It's only gonna get worse.
Certainly is, and it's very difficult to find grant money or dollars that will give you operational or overhead costs. So what's the general consensus for now?
We reinstate it for now. We could always cut it if we have to. But I'd like to see it reinstated.
So
I
we'll,
mean, I worked with her for 3.5 years with the food bank. I mean, with the food drives and then the one on Friday for seniors. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of people that they do help. Going even prior to when I was doing it, when Bob was running the building, I know she's saying 300 to 350, 400 cars going through on a Thursday night. I can remember when it was 600 and 700.
All I know is on the way to the Board of Ed meetings, the cars we lined up around the events that are all the way down the street.
Right.
It's crazy. And then they have that second mobile pantry in Beacon Falls.
In Beacon Falls,
Yeah.
which our people are, there's no question. There's no, there's no ID, there's no identification. You want to go to Beacon Falls, and a number of our people, I've helped her in Beacon Falls, and you recognize the people in the cars from the week before. There's a lot of Naugatuck people going to Beacon Falls as well.
They go to both.
Yeah.
Both, yeah.
And Wayne, please don't. This is not out of disrespect, but you said that there's no idea where they live.
That's the state regulation.
Same thing about income, correct?
There's nothing, there is,
$1,000 and still
You
come,
can-
correct?
yes.
Okay. Thought so, I just wanted to confirm that.
Unfortunately, that's out of her control, but it is true.
Okay.
I don't think you can found.
Yeah, I think
Oh, no,
you
no, I
can't control policy and
Don't
procedure.
misunderstand me. I wasn't.
I don't think
asking
that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I
Once
was
that conversation
curious.
comes up, somebody needs to say that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was just curious to
Take a
see.
break.
I mean, I can tell you, the day they had the stuffed pheasant breast, I was gonna get in line.
Well played.
I know, but I've asked, because this is on the every time, let's see. What the council says is total number.
Okay.
And then we'll. The ambulance, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember why, so it's fine.
Keep it in.
I couldn't.
All right, so just bringing it back in, I think the general consensus now is that we'll pencil in 30,000 for the full ask. Obviously, that could change. There's no promises at this point. We really haven't had any ads at all this whole process. So 30,000 is not all that big, in the grand scheme of things. So let's move on to general. Right now, we have a $20,000 increase, and the sole result of that is due to the municipal audit. Audit expenses are going up. No surprise, all expenses are going up. Any other questions or comments? Diane?
No, I thought of something I meant to bring up before, and we're fine. I'll bring you up next meeting.
All right, so before we jump into Board of Ed, why don't we just take a quick bio break? Make sure that we're uses are in order. Also, that'd be
So I want everyone, not everyone, but a group of you to add up all the numbers so far. Marcello has the official calculation, but we've done it 4 times. We got a different number every time. Let's see, Diane, you're good at this, too. So let's see what that number is. We'll take a break. Then we'll finalize that number at least for tonight. And then we'll go through the capital budget. And then, for the most part, we will have completed the review on the borough side.
Well, we haven't done the capital projects.
No, that's it right after the break.
Oh, yeah, we have to.
Mayor Pete, just a point of clarification. Are you asking for a total of the budget or a total of the increases?
The increase.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lee. All right, so we're back. It's roughly an $856,000 increase overall, not including the reserve unless someone got something drastically different.
That's exactly what I got. 56,
856, 522.
You two got the same number.
We did. Now, if we add in the 30,000 that we discussed, obviously it's 886, 522.
That includes,
20, no,
Sorry,
it's
20,000. There was already 10 in there.
that included.
Yeah, so
Right. Thank you.
876.
My number included it.
What?
I included it in my number.
866. Going once.
That's right, somewhere.
So we're basically up 860 grand. total.
All right.
Give or take a shelving unit,
What's that?
give or take a shelving unit.
Yeah. Reserve fund. Mayor Pete?
All right, so we're gonna take it from the top. Does everyone have the sheet? Allison, did you hand out reserve?
We have it in our binders. All right, so you should have a 7-page handout in the front of your binder, or was in the front of your binder last Monday. If you moved it, you moved it.
It's here pinned, I didn't have it. Yeah, pinned it. I pinned it to the page.
let me start off this way. There's, I'm gonna say one big ticket item that I'd like to get some feedback on. And it's, Farmers Pond, 450,000. Now, we're gonna do it. We could defer it a year,
It's in the front pocket.
but
Look like that. Look for that line.
Yeah.
but that's the only big ticket item in there that is borderline. So also,
Talked about.
the other consideration is that we're gonna use some of our capital reserves to pay for some of these capital items, so that, the increase to the budget from tax dollars will be less, because we have some accumulated reserves that we can use. So, now, I think I'd like to have that final decision made with input from the borough board, because there's no point in deciding here something that they don't want, but as a group, we have to decide whether we're gonna do that this year or next year. And the other big decision, I'm gonna throw out a solution. I think I got the feeling that everyone wants to do our dispatch radio public safety system, which is a big ticket item. But the idea would be that, let's just say it's 1.4 million, that we would put 400 in this year, time the project so we build it in the summer, next summer, which means we could defer 1 million of it until next year's capital budget, and only put in, say, 400,000 in this year. And the reason I say that is, and I'm not suggesting this, but if you cut 400,000 off the bombers and put that in, it would be basically where we are. So the capital budget in and of itself is pretty similar to most years, except for those two items. So
What is the Bombers project?
it's,
That's the
upgrades,
paving towards.
it's like
Bridge.
making Bombers Park
Yeah.
equivalent to Linden Park, all new, everything added.
Is there anything there right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's adult exercise equipment. There's a basketball court that needs work. There's another court that's just unoccupied. It's just nothing.
Didn't she mention that some of the things there were unsafe and that should be removed?
Well, that's more true in Salem Park.
Okay.
It could also be true to some extent
That's
there.
what she said there, is if we don't do
That's it, like-
anything, we should at least remove the stuff that's
Yeah,
a
like
liability.
down.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all,
Unacceptable.
from insurance,
Hmm.
when you have a public official publicly saying something's unsafe,
Should already go
hello,
through.
we're on notice.
Yeah.
So knock it down tomorrow. Because if somebody gets hurt, we're on notice.
Yeah.
Get your bulldozer there.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, but
Well, that
No,
won't,
you're right, I mean, there's a
we'll do that
liability,
with our own men. That won't
Right.
even cost
there's
them.
a liability attached to that, so you have to weigh that out. Do you take it down and make it a safer environment?
Yes.
And then just like put this project on hold temporarily.
So we don't have to decide that tonight, but. Well, let me throw this out first. I had the clear cut feeling that. Most people, if not all, want to do the public safety project and get that going. Is that correct?
Oh, I think that's very important.
100%.
Okay. So what about the notion of doing 400 this year, 1 million next year? We like that?
And then where do you put Bombers Pond back into the mix next year?
Well, we didn't take it out yet.
Okay, so but if you did, I mean, you'd have to figure all that in.
Yeah.
Well,
Anticipated added revenues there.
you know, we used to ask, I mean, between what parks, you know, so not park, not that, but between street department parks and golf. I think they got between their budget for the things under 5,000 and stuff here. I think we need to go back and ask them if they can cut out $100,000. Do they have to have every single thing in here? I mean, both things, I think it's a lot.
Bob, Matthew, you're trying to mention something? Okay, maybe not. Yeah, he lit
What
up.
about Rocky? Rocky,
Turn your headphones on.
where are you on Palmer's Pond?
You're on mute, Rocky. Just press the space bar, okay?
They also factored in tariff.
Headset might be some of the clogging, might.
IT gate. That's the other thing, very good point. IT put in 30% because of the tariffs. And now that's the stuff that's going to be exempt from the tariffs.
Today.
Well, today, but, you know,
Yeah, well.
but we don't even know if the tariffs are gonna be there
Gotta
6
keep the
months from
stock
now.
market happy.
How about now?
Yes.
Go ahead, Rocky.
Thank goodness. Yeah, police department comes first, no doubt about that. If we can fit in, Palmer's great. If not, it waits. That's it.
Mayor, what about, you were talking to Allison, between what they've requested in their regular budget for under $5,000 items and everything here that they've requested. And we've been very good to them for many years. Do you think we can ask them, is there $100,000 worth of equipment that you could put on hold?
Yeah, I could ask
Equipment they
anyone,
need.
I could ask anyone anything, but I have to say, when you have people busting their ass, making progress, doing everything right with minor increases, I'm so happy with their progress, that I don't want to slow them down.
No, the investment that we've made in them over the past couple of years has come back to us, and the amount of work that they're doing, saving us money, particularly the street work.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the, you know, the lawnmower that's a little bit wider instead of what they have now. I'm talking about those types of things that,
Yeah, so I would say this, that if you study the golf course from where we were 10 years ago to
Yeah.
today, remarkable.
it is.
Now, I'll also say this, and we have two golfers over here, that the course conditions for municipal course are dramatically improved. First of all, they were excellent before. We have a new groundskeeper who's excellent, and out-of-town players are coming left and right, and they're paying more, so we changed the rates this year, so the out-of-town people will pay more. So, so the revenue is gonna keep going up, and one of the reasons is it's very well maintained. And the other thing about the golf course is that they have 2.5 people working there. Now, we have some summer help here and there, but basically you have Scott, the head maintenance guy, you have Jimmy Brazel, and half a week they have J-Rock there. So 2.5 people to maintain a golf course is remarkable. Like, if you go to Western Hills and Waterbury, now it's 18 holes, so you'd say twice as many, that's 5, but they'll have like 14, 15 people. So our guys are really good. And go, look now, it hasn't even got warm yet, and it's so green.
Yeah. I need a right by the brooks and keep my fall for me.
Negotiate the Palmer's Pond project, maybe we have to. this year now.
Is there anyone else who's bothered about the fact that we're gonna plow under a playground and have nothing to put in its place? I mean, how many of you guys, did you grow up in houses that have backyards? Because if you did, maybe it doesn't hit you. I grew up, it's 933 Rubber Avenue. I grew up in an apartment complex. If it wasn't for the playgrounds and the open spaces that you had to go play, you had nothing. And that was nobody's fault. You know, it was just, that was the amount of money our parents made, that's where we had to live. I just have a hard time plowing down a playground and putting nothing in its place.
It's not being plowed down.
I thought that's what we said we were gonna do because of
No, we said-
liabilities.
No, we said we take out the things that were unsafe. That's
She said
not
the whole
every
thing.
single,
She
that's
said the
not,
whole thing.
no, I did not hear that.
I think
And
we
I
need
did
more
not hear the
information on what the
basketball.
plan is, because
Yeah.
if we're getting rid of an entire playground and leaving nothing but just a waste there,
Yeah,
that's a problem.
okay, that's a very reasonable question, because I don't think that's the case. The basketball court is not unsafe. And there's pieces of equipment in there that are not unsafe and are used all the time. I
We
mean,
need
when
to
I
set
walk, when I go
the
by there,
The
I,
safety.
We need to have them come back here
Okay,
and talk to us and give us a straight shot of what their plan is.
Mhm.
Because
I agree with Charlie.
to take things away from families and kids that may not, it's not their fault. That they live in a place that doesn't have a backyard.
Mhm.
And we're gonna take away one spot they have to play, I think that's pretty low. Person. I take it personally.
I couldn't tell.
I mean, on the plus side, that you're talking about taking away 450 and giving 400 for dispatch. They still have 50 that they could do some repairs and some minor, small upgrades, maybe to correct the
Well, it's-
major
it's not
problems.
appropriate. at this
so
point.
Dorothy said
That's really not-
you have this year, have next year,
Why?
put it at the end of the budget,
The equipment is so.
like started in June of next
Yeah, I
year.
mean, really, you can do it that way, it'll just be amortized over time and it'll still get done.
We could put it in 2 budget years, is what
Yeah.
they said.
Alma's asking to speak.
Go ahead, Alma.
I want to support what Charlie is saying. I believe that Farmers Pond should be maybe looked at again and see how we can maybe at a lower cost make it available to this to the residents in that area. It's hard when kids have nowhere to play or nowhere to go. My kids were playing in the street and that was not safe. So it's a good thing when kids have somewhere to go.
All right. So we'll leave it in for now.
Exactly what we're talking about. What needs to be done.
Maybe a site visit.
Well, because James asked, why is this a priority? She said, because it's unsafe. She said it. And I took that as meaning whatever was there was unsafe.
And my
She might have
opinion
got the
is,
place gate, but.
with all due respect, if it is unsafe, it's gotta go down.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's gotta go down.
I understand that, but we gotta put something in its place.
Having empty playgrounds is
I'll
is
go
a
look
bad
at
look
it,
for our
I'll
town.
go look on Friday, I'm off Friday.
You are?
All right,
I took the day off,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
get it.
all right, so is everyone good with the new dates?
Mhm.
The extra dates? Allison, remind me tomorrow, we have to tell Nancy to send out notices for,
Well, I'm gonna send out a new schedule.
Yeah, the workshops, so they don't have to be.
I just-
Well, yeah, she's been on a new
While
schedule.
while
then.
you're looking at me,
they're gonna be
Splash
mandatory
park?
and stuff, so.
playground.
But.
What comes first? I'm just-
We're keeping. the-
I'm just saying, option wise, not to rule out anything, just option.
Staying the same. Okay. So really, we're just having one meeting.
It's not gonna really happen.
No, it's supposed to be something.
Ready too.
Splash park.
I'm sorry.
It's supposed to be a splash park.
Right,
Yes, but I was just saying,
Redirecting the.
having
concept of
nothing
the-
involved
28th.
and putting off.
We have the
this
28th.
part right
We
there.
added the last time.
Yeah.
So I mean, we added
Without
two,
either.
um,
The last 2 days, yeah.
Maybe what he's talking about is more important as a priority.
So
Education.
let's say this, the meeting on the 28th has to be noticed. Because that will be the presentation to the joint boards
you stated the 22nd and the 28th may both be joined.
Well, the
So I would
the
put the vote,
22nd, we want the Burgesses to come. The 28th has to be a published meeting,
then I'll copy Nancy on the schedule update.
right?
Okay, so. April 28th is a notice, is a notice meeting, but we're still presenting to the joint boards on the 5th, right?
No, we're presenting to the joint boards on the 28th.
Oh, on the 20th, okay, all right, right. So pushing that back a week, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the 12th and 14th remain the same.
The last 3 dates
Yeah.
can't change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
I'm speaking
Alright.
to the choir.
Nothing sort of.
Well, let's.
Go.
Probably
So,
requires a whole meeting.
yeah, the board, so their request is 6.1 million. And we're gonna, that's the reason I wanted the extra meeting, so we can digest that as the only item. I wouldn't say the only item, but primarily, other than little things like Walmer's Pond and loose ends, the only major items for those 3 nights to get that sorted out. And think of it in 2 parts. What the total number is, and then how we allocate it. And that's where things like the town taking over facilities, capital, things like that come into
Will we
play.
have information about what kind of
We're-
efficiencies we can
We're,
create with that?
we're working on it now,
Okay.
Mayor,
yes.
can we reduce the by about 20, about 15, 20,000? I don't think we should be putting in tariffs for one department and not others. And then putting in tariffs for this department where they think that they're going to be, they may be exempt. So it's a $576,000 budget, so maybe
You're talking IT.
I take it, because they added 30% for the
So the
tariffs.
question, we should make a note as to whether, could you ask Jim Kay if if there are no tariffs anymore, which I guess is an if, I'm not sure.
Can I just
But-
bring up that this is not in his IT budget, it's in the reserve fund budget.
Right.
And it's the 2 items that are 214,500 and 42,900.
So, okay, but the question still remains, if there are no tariffs, we can take it out.
Right, so it's about 15,000, about $20,000.
Rocky, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I have no problem taking it out as long as we know if the tariffs come in, we can put it back in from somewhere without robbing some other department. And again, I think if the tariffs come back, they're going to be much more than he anticipates. At least that's all the experts that I'm listening to.
I mean, I'd rather take it out because when he's gonna order this next year, who knows what it's gonna be? If it's gonna be anything.
I'd rather have it.
We should land on.
Yeah, but that's a lot of money to be
You know what?
Speculating on.
to
That's what
be
we can do about it.
speculating on. But
It's
this
better
is the
than
stuff
getting
that
caught
they
with
just
our
said
pants
is
down.
gonna be removed.
I really just think that it's gonna be that big anyway. I think they're gonna be out.
So let's say we don't,
Faith.
let's assume we don't budget tariffs now and they come in and then we're under budget. What does that look like for us? What decisions do we have to make
Well,
then?
And how many items are
I mean-
impacted by that?
Is it
Not
just,
that many.
is it at that point just running at a deficit? We call it a day. Does it affect our bond rating? Like, what's the major impact by not including it now?
right.
So that logic applies to everything.
I was just gonna say,
So
yeah,
we can't, we haven't come close to a deficit. And we've had, I'm gonna say, pretty smooth sailing for a long time. if something happened and we started approaching a deficit, then it becomes my job to make sure we don't have a deficit, which could come in a whole different variety of maneuvers. So I always think about it, and we spend a lot, not a lot of time, but I would say we measure where we are. Like I'm gonna say between now and the end of the year, there's gonna be a lot of talk about the year end. That's a whole separate analysis, so it's always an issue.
Yeah, but the tariffs to me are similar to the, okay, I'm just gonna pick up. Fire alarm panel and sensors, 40,000, that's what's budgeted. But he goes out and it's 50,000. It's kind of the same thing. You know, these are just numbers that are here, and that's why I'd rather go with the numbers than a tariff that may or may not be there.
When they hit a quote that's above what you approve, it mostly stays in the budget till you approve the difference the following year. If those two items are mandatory to go into place, you're stopping those projects until you could find more funding or the mayor approves some other source.
Or if you have an area that's got a surplus, then you can just transfer the
Exactly.
funding, which.
We've done that before.
Yeah.
This would be a joint board transfer because this money is in 35, is not in the general fund once it's approved.
We've never done that. I can't remember ever having a problem with capital and having to have a meeting because it was budgeted at 40 and came in at 50.
Because the item doesn't get purchased and it waits for you the following budget year. Like the spray park.
Well, that's not such a bad thing.
The two,
That's why in my opinion, we can remove the tariff.
the two items,
What's the impact? I just heard what the impact is, and honestly, I'm not impressed. It's not that big a deal. Right.
what do
Happens
you,
all the time.
what do you mean?
I mean, so, okay, something waits until the next budget.
The two items that are on the table with the tariffs are not something that the police department can do without for another year.
We could find another source to give them the money to get it done. Right?
Hence,
Pick one.
Oh, yeah, because the 214,000 item is an end of life item, so they have to. be.
But again, it's not the cost of the item,
No.
it's the tariff that's $214,000.
Well, here it says may change due to tariffs. So
No,
I don't
he
know if it's in
specifically
this
said,
one.
no, he specifically
yeah, those
said
are in there.
that he added
Yes,
30%.
30%.
Oh, yes.
So even though, so let's look at it the other way. He put in a 30%, but it jumped to 145% tariff. So you're screwed anyway.
Well, then don't buy it from China.
No, but but what the point I'm trying to make is that's an arbitrary number. Yes.
So James's question, let me just try to reframe this, because this is starting to really make me annoyed. James's question was, what is the impact? Okay? The impact is, if we go over budget, it has to be voted on if it's more. Okay, so we vote on it. The police thing, that's a no-brainer. That's public safety. It has to be done. If a tariff comes in, we've got to figure out a way to pay it. You might have to do a budget freeze. The lawnmower that we talked about might have to wait. Something else might have to wait. That's the impact if these tariffs materialize at a rate that causes consternation. Let me just not make it as chaotic as we're making it, okay? We just heard what the impact is. It doesn't feel like this needs to be a big conversation. Like I said, I'm not impressed by the big impact. No, I've seen a budget freeze a bunch of whole times. Out of the 40 years I was in public education, I probably had 18 budget freezes. And life went on. It was a little bit more miserable, but life went on. And we could do that in the town. And certainly it wouldn't affect a public safety item.
The other thing you're not looking at right now is we're only looking at a couple of items, and those are electronics coming out of China. If the lawnmower or one of the trucks comes out of Canada, it could also carry a tariff in the
Right.
near future.
Right, and that's the what if, but what I'm saying is, are we going to base our budget on a bunch of what ifs?
On a maybe.
On a maybe and a bunch of what ifs, I mean, so to your point, Wayne, then do you add whatever the tariff is to Canada, 30%? Do we add 30% to every single item?
You know, again, we don't know where it's coming from. This we know is coming from China.
Rocky may want.
More than likely,
Oh, okay.
we're going to see tariffs
I
from
see.
China.
I almost got her hand up.
I was just going to,
Go ahead,
I was
Alma.
just going to say that anything that we purchase in from vehicles or anything like that will be, if the tariffs hold, subjected to increase. So I don't know why we need to hold a police item or budget the police item with the tariff. I'm looking at it without the tariff, because any other item will have to be treated in the same way if the tariffs hold.
Right, maybe we look at it before it gets ordered.
Rocky, did you have something to add too? No, okay.
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
The two items that we're talking about, the total cost is, the tariff differential is like 75,000 in total.
Which we can find. Assuming it's.
Yeah.
All right, so are we in agreement that we're
12%.
removing the 30% tariff? Is anyone opposed to that?
What we can
Go ahead.
do. So in reserve, we're on the revenue side, making some, lower projections on some good things. So for example, Amazon, you know, the building permit fee could be like $1 million. So we're putting it in higher numbers, but there are some potential positive numbers that could jump up that would far exceed the tariffs. Now, all we have to do is hit on one of four of those numbers, and things like the tariffs all get wiped out. So I like to think of a budget as it's a snapshot in time. You know, we make our best estimates at the date we do it. Things are gonna change. There's gonna be pluses and minuses all year. Every day we keep track of pluses and minuses. Allison does it on the computer. I do it up here. I think mine's a little better. That was a sort of a joke.
Go brain.
No, well, I've been doing that my whole life, but I know that when we're doing well, and when we're starting to get a little shaky is when we start making moves. So that's just the nature of the business.
So I'd like to remove the tariffs.
Any opposed to that?
So it's the 30% from the, what,
Just those two
Just those
items.
two items.
In the IT budget.
In the reserve budget.
In
The reserve budget,
portion
thank
of
you,
the
sorry.
IT budget.
Sorry, Allison.
No, don't worry about it. I'm good. I'm just here for you.
So we're looking at roughly, was it a $75,000?
Roughly about 75.
It was 59,400. But I used a computer. Silly me.
I looked over her shoulder to
50,000
verify it.
23,000 on another.
I kept hitting minus.
All right, so
It hit
next
me.
Monday,
It's like,
next Monday we'll be looking at the Board of Ed, and that'll be our sole focus. If there's no other reason to keep the meeting going, we can adjourn now.
Oh, all right.
Do we have
All right, 8:10 p.m. We're out of here. Thank you, everyone.